You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter @RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, except no imitation. I've got to start with the news that Aaron Boone will be back as Yankees manager. It's official. Boone signed a 3-year deal with a team option for 2025. Obviously, this means that Brian Cashman's going to be back not just for this coming season, but beyond. You're not going to let Cashman sign someone to a 3 or 4 year deal if you're not planning on bringing him back. So, the Yankees hierarchy will stay in place. And what it comes down to is this. The New York Yankees just don't care about winning. Flat out, they don't. Or at the very least, they have a different definition of winning. If you listened to the Brian Cashman press conference, which I didn't listen to the Boone press conference, really don't care. If you read between the tea leaves, they're okay with 90-win seasons and then letting the chips fall where they may in the postseason. They don't view not winning a World Series and not winning a pennant as failures. They're really okay with it. The era of if the Yankees don't win a World Series, it's considered a failure, is officially dead. Hal Steinbrenner does not care about winning a World Series. I don't care what Brian Cashman says. Steinbrenner's actions speak otherwise, which, as far as I'm concerned, makes him not a Steinbrenner. Okay, what was the Steinbrenner credo for the 37 years that George owned the Yankees? Winning over everything. It didn't matter what it took to win. Didn't matter the payroll. Didn't matter what people you ticked off along the way. None of it mattered. The only thing that mattered was the Yankees winning World Series. Did it always happen? No. And I'm not saying that George Steinbrenner was a perfect owner. He wasn't. He made a lot of mistakes along the way. But his son has taken the good parts of George and has gone in the complete opposite direction. The biggest criticism of George Steinbrenner is that he inserted himself too much into baseball decisions. He was too quick to fire people. And that did set the Yankees on a bad path in the 1980s. But here's the thing. under that logic, those 1980s Yankees teams would be considered good teams by Hal Steinbrenner. Because those teams had winning records every year with the exception of 89. They won 90 games some years. They actually finished with more wins than any team in the 1980s. But why is that era of Yankees baseball considered a failure? I'll tell you. It's because they didn't win a World Series. It's because they only made the World Series once. No one looks back at those 1980s Yankees teams and says that they're good. But you know what? Hal Steinbrenner would. Hal Steinbrenner would say, hey, winning records every year, 90-win seasons, competitive baseball, that's fine by me. The fact that Hal Steinbrenner has that mindset, that just making the playoffs, finishing with 90 wins, but really not making a lot of noise when you get there is okay, should make you sick to your stomach as a Yankees fan. I'm a season ticket holder. I have never wanted to get rid of my season tickets more than at this very moment. And I kept my season tickets in 13, 14, 15, and 16. Those were bad Yankees teams. But at least then, I had the sense that ownership, the front office, and the coaching staff was really doing everything possible to win. Like, the thing is, 13 was a bad team, but that team was ravaged by injuries. They had injuries up and down the lineup. What did they do in 14? They signed Brian McCann, they signed Jacoby Ellsbury, they signed Carlos Beltran, they signed Masahiro Tanaka. They went out, made a bunch of moves. Granted, it didn't work. There's no question. But at least you had the sense that they were really motivated to fix this. In 15, they made the playoffs. They got shut out in the wild card game. But hey, they were in the playoffs. 16, they make the big trade for Chapman. It's going to be no runs DMC. It doesn't work. And they blow things up. They retool a roster, they get into the playoffs in 17, magical season. The point is, those Yankees teams of 13 through 16, there was a sense that this team would do whatever it took to win. Things weren't working out, but hey, they were motivated, they were spending money, they were making big moves, they were making smart decisions. Let's put it this way, there's a reason that the ire of Yankees fans back then was directed at Joe Girardi and not Brian Cashman. People were okay with the decisions that were being made. They just weren't okay with the on-the-field product. So hey, Cashman's doing everything he can, Girardi's just not executing. That was the mindset we had. Now, no one cares. That's the thing. You've made the playoffs 5 straight seasons. 6 of the last 7. Do you want to take that next step? No, we're okay to just let the chips fall where they may. We're really not going to change up our approach too much. our process is working. It defies logic. It really does. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The fact that the Yankees are going to run it back with this GM that has only won one World Series with a roster that he put together by himself and a manager that has never made a World Series is comical. I don't think anyone's disputing the fact that if this hierarchy was in charge of, say, the Mets, that they'd be looked at very favorably. Making the playoffs every year, winning 90 games every year. I don't think a Mets fan could be upset at that. But a Yankees fan can. And the reason is that the Yankees are held to a higher standard. They are held to a higher standard by everyone. They're fans of other teams, the media, literally everyone understands that every year in the Bronx should be World Series or bust. More often than not, you're gonna bust. No one's expecting the Yankees to win every year. But what we are expecting is the motivation from the powers that be within the Yankees organization to constantly put out a product that can win a World Series. That has not happened. Flat out, it just didn't happen this year. It didn't happen last year. Being good, not great, is suddenly okay for the New York Yankees. And I have a problem with that. And every Yankees fan that grew up with George Steinbrenner, that grew up with this team making World Series on a consistent basis, that grew up with iconic moments, should have an issue with that. What's Aaron Judge's Yankees moment? Hitting his 52nd home run in 2017? Only to see the record be broken by Pete Alonso 2 years later? Judge sending the Yankees to the playoffs against the Rays the last day of the season this year? You're joking, right? That only matters if the Yankees make noise in the playoffs. Yay! Aaron Judge sent the Yankees to the playoffs. Great, fantastic. What did they do when they got there? Oh, they got embarrassed by the Red Sox. You know, the Carlton Fisk home run in Game 6 of the 75 World Series is great. But then when you realize that the Red Sox lost the next game, it loses some of its luster, right? What's Giancarlo Stanton's Yankees legacy? Producing in postseasons where the Yankees don't even make a World Series? Well, and how great of a postseason performer is he? Great postseason performers win World Series. As great as Stanton's been in the playoffs, the fact that he hasn't won a World Series hurts him. I mean, look, I don't want to get on Judge and Stanton. I love Judge and Stanton. They were the Yankees' 2 best hitters this year. But I really feel like the Yankees organization is okay with those guys turning into a Don Mattingly type. Great players, but never made a World Series. Seriously, Judge and Stanton could go down in Yankees history as very good Yankees. Not great. Not in the Ruth tier, not in the Gehrig tier. Mantle, DiMaggio, Jeter, Ford, Rivera. Not in that tier. The Mattingly tier. The Stottlemyre tier. Really talented players that never won a World Series. At the end of the day, that's what should matter most to the Yankees. And you know what? Quite honestly, if you're okay with just letting the chips fall where they may, then just blow the whole team up. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you're not going to go all in to try to win a World Series, which is what bringing Boone back tells me, because for 4 years this guy has failed to even win a pennant, then just blow the whole team up. Let me know that you're really not expecting to contend this year. Forget Correa, forget Scherzer, forget Seager, forget Story, forget Posey, forget any of those guys. If this Yankees team is okay with not winning a World Series every year, then tell your fans that. Don't delude them by trading for guys like Odor and Gallo and Rizzo and Heaney. Just say, you know what? We realize that we don't have the core necessary to contend, so this is going to be a rebuilding year. I understand that Cashman said in his press conference that that's not in the Yankees' DNA. But you know what is in the Yankees' DNA? Winning. You know what they haven't done? Won anything. So don't talk to me about Yankees' DNA. Seriously, if Hal Steinbrenner, Brian Cashman, and Aaron Boone are really going to hold the Yankees to a lower standard, there's very little I can do about that. But then take that mindset to its logical conclusion. If you're not going to do whatever it takes to win a World Series, and it's clear as day that these three stooges aren't, then blow the whole thing up. I'll tell you right now, even if the Yankees sign Correa, Scherzer, and Posey, and they make some really smart trades, and they go into this season with a better roster than this past year, I'd still be really skeptical about their ability to win a pennant, let alone a World Series. I've said for the last few seasons that this Yankees team had what it took to win a pennant and to win a World Series. I've been burned repeatedly by that. I'm sick of it. I've learned my lesson. I've learned that Brian Cashman is incapable of putting together a World Series winner by himself. And I've learned that Aaron Boone is one of the worst managers in Yankees history. So how can I pick them to make any noise in the playoffs? Maybe you'll make the ALCS. Great, fantastic. Not enough. Flat out, it's just not enough. See, the notion that you can't win every year is true, but don't make it seem like the Yankees have. They haven't. Yes, they've been in the playoffs 5 straight seasons, and 6 of the last 7. But what have they done? No World Series. No pennants. Under Boone, only one World Series appearance. 3 of the last 4 years, you're eliminated before the ALCS even starts. See, here's the thing. Let's say Cashman and Boone ran the Mets. No one would be calling for their heads, but there would be a growing sense of frustration that maybe, just maybe, these guys can't get us to the mountaintop. So after 4 straight years of making the playoffs, there would be people saying, hey, you know what? I'm happy that we're in the playoffs every year, but can we win that last game of the season? Can we win a pennant? Can we win a World Series? I don't think there's a team in baseball that would be okay with going 4 or 5 straight years of making the playoffs, but not winning a pennant or a World Series. That just doesn't work. Like, for any other team, there would be a ton of pressure on Boone and Cashman to win. I don't get that from the Yankees. Do you really think that Hal Steinbrenner is going to blow things up if the Yankees have another early postseason exit next year? Do you really think that Brian Cashman's going to make major changes? Do you really think that Aaron Boone is going to change the way he does things? I don't think so. And you know why? Because just being good is acceptable to the Yankees now. It's one thing if you're going to be luxury tax conscious. Totally get that. It's a little frustrating because George blew past the luxury tax every year, but I understand that his son doesn't want to. Okay. You don't need to pay the luxury tax to win in baseball. Like, I could defend Steinbrenner for that. What I can't defend him on is sticking with these 2 idiots that just don't know how to win. 12 years without a World Series? It's clear that Cashman doesn't know what he's doing. Not winning a pennant, let alone a World Series? It's clear that Boone doesn't know what he's doing. That I can't defend. Hal Steinbrenner is an embarrassment to his last name. His father is rolling over in his grave. When Hal gets to those pearly gates, his father's going to be right there to greet him, but instead of giving him a big hug, he's going to slap him across the face. And this is what he'll say. Under you, the Yankees became okay with losing. That's the one thing I was never okay with. And I tried to make changes to fix that. It didn't work, but boy did I try. You didn't. You were content to let the chips fall where they may, and that's unforgivable. See, here's the thing, and this is a big question. How much say does Aaron Boone really have? Is he the one making these decisions, or is it Cashman? Is it the analytics department? I mean, I don't know. What I do know is this. There are some times where you need to trust your manager to manage by his gut. And sure, You can call him into your office and say, you put in pitcher A for pitcher B. It didn't work. Why did you do that? I'm okay with that. I have no problem with that. That's accountability. It's a good thing to hold people accountable. If you're not going to hold people accountable, that's when anarchy sets in. But what I'm not okay with is getting to the point where the manager is handcuffed by the organization. We're going to do this, that, and the other, and you have to go out there and explain it and execute it. And we're just going to sit in the shadows and let the chips fall where they may. I don't know what kind of input Aaron Boone has in the day-to-day decisions of the Yankees. I don't know if he's the one making the lineup card. I don't know if he's the one making the pitching decisions. I don't know how much input he has in trades and free agent signings and stuff like that. Maybe Aaron Boone is just a glorified cheerleader. Maybe he is a yes man. See, the fact that Brian Cashman said that the skill set that Aaron Boone has is what we'd look for in a new manager is sickening. You can't look at Aaron Boone's 4 years as Yankees manager and say those are successful seasons. Alright, 90 wins don't work for me. Not winning a pennant doesn't work for me. So why on God's green earth, after 4 straight years of losing that last game of the season, 3 out of those 4 years not even making it to the ALCS, having to sit through back-to-back incredibly streaky seasons, how can you sit there and say that the skill set that Aaron Boone brings is what we'd look for in a new manager? It defies logic. Boone's a good communicator, good motivator. The players like him because he lets them get away with murder. And there's no accountability. With Girardi, the message got stale, so you bring in a guy who's going to be really easy to play for in Boone. Fine. But you've seen that approach doesn't work. The straw man doesn't work. The guy who's going to pat you on the back after going 0 for 4 with 2 errors isn't going to work. So how can you say that's what you want in a new manager? Maybe it's what Cashman wants, but Hal Steinbrenner needs to step in and say, no, that's not what's best for this organization. You may like it because it gives you more power, but it's not working. It's been 4 years of failure. Losing to the Red Sox twice. In 2018, in the Bronx. Giving up the walk-off home run to Altuve in Game 6 in 2019. After deploying the stupid opener strategy. 2020, losing to a Rays team that you could buy without making a dent in your checkbook. This year, making the playoffs on the last day of the season, having to travel to Boston only to get humiliated. How does that approach work for you? How does Hal Steinbrenner say, yeah, you know what? I'm okay with bringing Boone back. I'm okay with a collaborative approach You and him working together on the lineup card and pitching decisions, that's fine. It just defies logic to me that a Steinbrenner is okay with this. If it worked, no problem, but it doesn't. The Yankees are okay with losing. As long as they're in the playoffs, they're content to just let the chips fall where they may. There's no burning desire to win a World Series like there was when George was alive. At the end of the day, everyone just wants harmony. Everyone within the Yankees wants to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Well, you know what? To go a little deeper into that song, someone is crying. It's Yankees fans all over the world that are sick and tired of seeing their team eliminated before the World Series. It is Yankees fans that see that this method of doing things just isn't working. No one is saying disregard analytics entirely, but you're within your rights to say, thank you for sharing this with me, but I'm still gonna trust my gut on this one. If it works, great. If it doesn't, okay, I'll learn from it. I'll try to not let it happen again. But the fact that you're so beholden to this analytics above all credo, and that you want a manager that's just going to be a good communicator and doesn't really have his team or his players overachieving, which is like the core job of the manager. The fact that you're okay with that is sickening. These aren't the Yankees anymore. These guys are just a cheap imitation. It just all boils down to this. There's no desire to get better. They're content with just being good. They don't care about being great. The reality is, Yankees fans, until this hierarchy establishes the old George mantra of winning over everything, it's going to be the same old thing over and over again. Early playoff exits. If there's going to be no accountability for your failure to improve, what's the motivation to improve? The Yankees are a joke. They're a disgrace to their history. I've never been more upset to be a Yankees fan than I am right now. They're a disgrace to the pinstripes. This hierarchy is an utter disgrace. Moving on now to the ALCS. It was another blowout win for the Red Sox. They hit their third grand slam in the last two games. They won 12-3. They did the right thing by saving their bullpen. Both teams did. I understand that the Astros used 6 pitchers, but they really didn't use their high leverage guys. They didn't use Graveman. They didn't use Presley. And you know what? The way that he's been throwing the ball in these playoffs, I'll put Christian Javier in that mix also. Javier has looked really good. Solid job by both managers. Here's the thing. And I've seen this from Dusty Baker teams before. They go into freefall mode. The Giants in 2002 went into freefall mode. The Cubs in 2003 went into freefall mode. His Nationals teams went into freefall mode. And that's what prevents them from winning a World Series. I mean, Astros pitching has given up 3 grand slams in 11 innings. Jose Altuve botches a ground ball. Granted, a tough play, but a play he should make. Then the next batter, Kyle Schwarber, hits a grand slam, makes it 6-0 Red Sox, puts the game out of reach. Brent Strom, the Astros pitching coach, is now openly musing that his team could be tipping pitches. Everything that could be going wrong for the Astros is going wrong. Now, I expected the Astros to be motivated entering Game 3. Okay, we just got blown out. 24-hour rule. Let's go into Fenway and embarrass them like we got embarrassed at Minute Maid. Instead, that game was over in the second inning. After the Schwarber grand slam, I turned it off. I don't even think I waited for it to land into the stands. I saw it clear the small right field wall, and it's like, okay, this game's over. Hey, look, Monday Night Football. If the Astros don't win tonight, the series is over. They're not going to come back from 3-1 down. Given the way they've played in this series so far, there's no way the Astros are coming back. This is what happens with Dusty Baker teams. They play well in the regular season, but in the postseason, they fold. It doesn't matter if you have great postseason performers like Bregman, Altuve, and Correa. Some managers are good enough to get you to the postseason, but that's it. Aaron Boone and Dusty Baker are in that class. Baker's a well-respected guy. Everyone likes him. Totally get that. But he's overrated. No World Series? I'm not a big Baker fan. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I just think he's overrated. But now it's time to preview tonight's 2 games. I'll start with the NLCS. It's Charlie Morton versus Walker Bueller. Morton primarily throws 3 pitches, a curveball, a fastball, and a sinker. He got away from throwing the sinker as the year progressed, but it can still be a good weapon against righties. He'll get you flailing at the curveball. He'll try to pepper the corners with the fastball. I mean, Morton's a great playoff pitcher. This is an important game for the Braves. They can put a stranglehold on this series if they win tonight. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pitcher to help you win that type of a game than Morton. A guy who in his postseason career is 7-4 with a 3.44 ERA. A guy who pitched well in Game 1 of the NLDS against the Brewers. It's not his fault that he lost. Game 4, he struggled. But Freddie Freeman hit the big home run off Josh Hader, so all was forgiven. You've got to feel confident in Morton if you're a Braves fan. But if you're a Dodgers fan, you've also got to be confident in your guy, Walker Bueller. Primarily throws a fastball, then it's a cutter, slider, curveball combo. He's an old school pitcher. He'll attack with his fastball. Then he'll try to get you chasing a slider outside if you're a righty. And if you're a lefty, he'll run a cutter in on you. That'll result in broken bats, shades of Mariano. And he'll get you lunging at a curveball, sometimes a changeup also. Bueller's looked really good in these playoffs. I want Dave Roberts to trust him a little bit more than he's trusted Scherzer. And even Bueller in Game 4 got pulled a little early. You've got a great pitcher on the mound, a guy who went 16-4 with a 2.47 ERA and had over 200 strikeouts. Trust him over your suddenly shaky bullpen. This is a must-win game for the Dodgers. Make no mistake about it. They're not going to come back from 3-0 down. I picked the Dodgers before this series started. I said that whoever won the Dodgers-Giants series would win the World Series. So I kind of have to go with the Dodgers. But it wouldn't stun me at all if the Braves won. Moving on now to Astros Red Sox. We have Zack Greinke going up against Nick Pivetta. If you thought you would see this pitching matchup in Game 4 before the series started, play lotto tonight. Greinke's making his first start since September 19th. It will have been exactly a month since the Diamondbacks shelled him for 5 runs over 4 innings. The Astros put him in the bullpen. Now he has to start because the Astros literally have no one else. I mean, this is why I picked the Red Sox in this series before it started. I trusted their pitching more than I trusted the Astros pitching. You know what? I've been proven right. So now you have to start a guy in Greinke who, yes, is talented, but is clearly like the last guy on earth you wanted making this start if you're Dusty Baker. In a must-win game, you don't want a guy pitching who hasn't started a game in a month. I mean, Greinke's going to be expected to give you length. Can he do that? I don't think so. He loves to attack with his fastball. He has a slider that tails away on righties. His changeup is absolutely lethal against lefties. If he can get it out of the zone, it's unhittable. If it hovers around that low outside corner, watch out. Hitters can make solid contact off it. The curveball is really good. Just get it out of the zone. I mean, Greinke's a veteran. This is why the Astros traded for him. For must-win games. This is a must-win game. Again, the Astros aren't going to come back from 3-1 down. Not the way they've played in this series so far. Be confident in the fact that you have a Cy Young winner. pitching tonight, a 6-time All-Star, a 2-time ERA title winner, and most likely a future Hall of Famer. Because he will have 3,000 strikeouts by the time his career is over. He's going to turn 38 on Thursday, and he currently has 2,809 strikeouts. So he need 191 to get to 3,000. He's probably not going to get it next year, but the year after he could. Even if he just spends his last year in the bullpen. Like, let's say he gets 120 strikeouts again next year. That would put him at 29-29. If he spends a year in the bullpen, he can get 71 strikeouts. That would be very possible. Greinke's a future Hall of Famer. On the flip side of that coin is Nick Pivetta. Not the guy who you really want starting this game if you're a Red Sox fan in a perfect world. Although, in all fairness to him, in Game 3 of the ALDS against the Rays, he was fantastic. Pitched 4 innings of shutout baseball. He got the win in that game. I'm just not sure how much you can really count on him. He went 9-8 with a 4.53 ERA this year. Primarily throws a fastball. He has a curveball that'll throw all over the place. He has a slider that'll throw all over the place. He likes to throw the fastball high. I'm not in love with Pivetta. It may be hard to not believe in him, given what he did in Game 3, but I really can't get behind him. I'm going to go with the Astros tonight. I'll say that Greinke pitches a really good game. Alright, now I'll give you some NBA Valk talk. The Ben Simmons saga has taken another turn. He was kicked out of today's practice by Doc Rivers for not participating in defensive drills. The Sixers suspended Simmons for their season opener tomorrow against the Pelicans. And Simmons has been fined $1.4 million. Joel Embiid publicly criticized him. This situation is toxic. If you're Daryl Morey, you need to get rid of him now. I don't care if the best offer you get is 3 guys named Mo and a ham sandwich. This is a situation that's going to be a big cloud over your team until he's gone. Because let's be honest, Simmons isn't going to buy in. Alright, he's going to pull a James Harden. He's going to do whatever he can to convince his team to trade him. And eventually they'll relent because they'll have no choice. At the end of the day, if Daryl Morey accepts a subpar offer, he'll have no one to blame but himself. Because he could have traded Simmons at the draft and could have gotten something good for him, not great. Now, what trade is going to happen? Would you do Simmons for Kyrie? I mean, Kyrie might retire if the Nets trade him. I'd be okay with it. I think Simmons could really fit with the Nets. I don't think Nets fans would turn on him like Sixers fans have turned on him. And I'm not blaming Sixers fans for turning on him. But the reason that they turned on him was because Simmons can't score. Simmons doesn't need to score if he becomes a net. Think of all the players the Nets have that are better scorers than him. Durant, Harden, Harris, Aldridge, Griffin. That's 5 guys right there. In fact, you can make an argument that Patty Mills is better than him. That Paul Millsap is better than him. That Nick Claxton is better than him. Maybe even Cam Thomas. Ben Simmons would be a great ball handler, great initiator, great playmaker, really good slasher, could draw a double team and then kick it out to an open shooter, would play great defense. He'd be a perfect net. Ben Simmons for Kyrie Irving makes sense. And quite honestly, even if Kyrie does retire, it may be worth it for the Sixers to just get rid of the headache. You want to tell me it's getting rid of a headache to bring in another headache? Because Kyrie not playing would be a headache? If you sell it as we just wanted to get rid of Simmons and we're going to take the chance that Kyrie will play for us at some point, I could live with that. I mean, even if the Nets kick in like a second round draft pick or a guy like Day'Ron Sharpe, I feel like you'd have to do it if you're Daryl Morey. Not a great offer, but this situation is toxic. And for a Sixers team that has title aspirations, what's better? Keeping the toxic Ben Simmons around? Or taking the chance that Kyrie Irving will be a 76er, that he won't retire? Even if Irving doesn't play, and he says, you know what, I'm going to sit out this year, I didn't want to be traded, I don't want to be a Sixer, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So you just opened the door to add a big free agent. Maybe even James Harden. Realize Harden hasn't signed an extension with the Nets yet. Maybe Bradley Beal, if he decides to leave the Wizards in free agency. Maybe you swing a Damian Lillard trade. I really think Kyrie for Simmons makes sense for both teams. I'll close this show out with some NFL Valk talk, specifically on Bills Titans. An absolutely great game, an exciting game. Josh Allen went off, completed 35 of his 47 passes for 353 yards and 3 touchdowns. Emmanuel Sanders, Stephon Diggs, and Cole Beasley all looked great. Derrick Henry looked fantastic. 20 carries for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. A.J. Brown looked really good. Julio Jones in his return from injury looked really good. This was an incredibly exciting game. You knew that it would be. You had 2 division leaders going at it. 2 of the best teams in the AFC going at it. This game was everything that you could hope it would be. It was full of big plays. The 76-yard touchdown by Henry. The great catch by Jones off the deflection by Micah Hyde. great game. As most great games do, it came down to a final play. The Titans were up 34-31 with 22 seconds left in the fourth quarter. It was 4th and 1, but it was really 4th and a half. The Bills had to get to the Titans' 2-yard line. They were at the 2.5-yard line. So here's the question. Do you kick a field goal there and play for overtime? Or do you trust your MVP candidate quarterback, Josh Allen, to make a play, get you a first down, and maybe, just maybe, you win the game in overtime? Sean McDermott decided to go for it. It was a quarterback sneak, and Allen couldn't get half a yard. So ball game over, Titans win. I had no problem with going for it there. Firstly, Josh Allen is 6'5", 237 pounds. I'll trust a guy like him, who's built like a basketball player, to get half a yard. It's a quarterback sneak. You trust your big guys over their big guys. I have no problem with McDermott putting the game in Josh Allen's hands and saying, you're either going to win us this game or lose us this game. We don't want to play for overtime. See, here's the thing. Here's what ticks me off. Whenever coaches don't go for it on 4th down, you'll hear people say, the analytics say you should go for it. You had a this % chance of converting the 4th down. So when they do that and it doesn't work, then the argument becomes, don't listen to the analytics? Play for the tie? Don't be aggressive? Pick a lane! I mean, this isn't something like you going for it from your own 19-yard line. That's incredibly stupid. If you're going to do that, either run a fake or try to stuff it up the middle. That pass by Justin Herbert made no sense. Bad play call. Bad decision all around. It never should have happened. 4th and a half from the Titans' 2.5-yard line? And you're trusting your 6'5", 237-pound quarterback to get half a yard? I'm okay with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Here's the thing. Instead of criticizing the decision to go for it there, how about you criticize the execution? Not for nothing, but that was a really bad sneak by Allen. He got no leverage. It looked like he lost his balance pretty early. Yes, he was going low, but he wasn't going low to try to lower his shoulder and sneak through. He was going low because it looked like his feet just gave out from under him. It looked like he just tried to stumble a half a yard rather than power through. That was a bad job by Allen. I honestly didn't mind the decision to go for it there. Trust your guys to execute. Play for the win rather than the tie. I don't mind that. You can't have it both ways. You can't criticize coaches for being too conservative and then criticize coaches for being really aggressive. It doesn't work. The same people that criticize coaches for punting from midfield on 4th and short were the same people criticizing McDermott for this decision. I have a problem with that. The hypocrisy just drives me nuts. There's no question that it's risky. I don't know if I would have had the stones to go for it if I was an NFL head coach. But you know what? I commend McDermott for being aggressive. It didn't work. But it was the right play call. It just wasn't executed well by Josh Allen. That's all it boils down to. Get upset at Allen. Don't get upset at McDermott. Brooklyn Nets season preview comes your way tonight. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.